guys. Can everyone hear me? Okay, cool. And is the mic's working up there? Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, as Krista said, I'm Lee. I'm from Los Angeles, and I have a healthy living Instagram, and I feel like that's kind of vague. So if you're not following me, then I'll give you like a little bit of a kind of like cover of what I talk about. It first started off with recipes, and it's kind of morphed into more of like all-around living, because healthy living to me is not just about like smoothies and salads. You can eat as many smoothies and salads as you want, but that's not necessarily going to make you mentally well or emotionally well. And as we know, like a healthy lifestyle isn't just physical, it's mental and emotional too. So tonight's talk, I'm going to cover how to take care of yourself, especially in college. I know how difficult that is because I was in college not too long ago. And like self-care tips and how self-care can build confidence, which leads to better relationships with yourself, other people, significant others, your family, and all around leads to a better quality of life. So a little bit about me. I'm from Fairfield, Connecticut, so I'm from the East Coast, and I basically I was like trying to put my life in a slide, and I found it really hard to like put it up there, but basically I wasn't always like super healthy. I struggled with an eating disorder from the ages of like 16 till, I mean, I would say like, and I mean, it's hard to say like when your eating disorder stops because it doesn't never like stop, but I would say that I kind of like got over it when I was like 23, 24, and made a promise to myself that I was going to truly commit to recovery. But I did spend like 6 months at an inpatient facility down in Miami, Florida while I was in high school. And then I went to St. Joe's right after my inpatient treatment and graduated in 2012. And then I moved to New York City with like my dream job of hospitality and helping open up restaurants and bars. And I was really, really interested in the hospitality and the food business. So I helped open up restaurants, and my job was super, super stressful. So I definitely was really stressed out. And my job required us to go out and drink a lot with clients, stay up really late. I drank like probably 8 cups of coffee a day. I wasn't really sleeping, and I was partying a lot. And then I was also in a toxic relationship, which I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because I feel like that's kind of a subject that I don't really talk about on my blog because it's a little bit personal to me, but I wanted to talk to you guys about it tonight because it's definitely something that I struggled with while I was in college, and so I thought maybe if it like helps one person, then I did my job. And then I moved to Los Angeles because I wanted to get out of that relationship and start a new life. So that's where I live now. And I've turned my Instagram, my blog into my full-time job. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and ask them while I'm talking, because I want this to be an engaging, interacting kind of thing. So don't feel like it's school, or I mean, you don't even need to raise your hand. Like if you just want to call out and ask a question, I'm more than very receptive to any questions that you guys may have. So let's, get a dialogue going. Okay, so this is me when I was in college. Okay, found these photos today when I was going through my Facebook from like 2012, 2011, studying abroad, drinking all the beer, and like, I don't even know what that is, cider. So after struggling with my eating disorder, even though I like got over that, I still wasn't coping well, like with my stress and anxiety and life. Like in college and even before that, I always felt the pressure of not only being a female, but in like being a young 20-something is really stressful these days, especially as women. Like we're forced to like look a certain way. The media tells us that our looks are the most important thing. We're, especially in school, we're pressured to get good grades and to get a good job right after college and find our passion, and like everyone wants to have it all. And we're just like constantly getting like all this stuff sent into our brains that we're not even aware of, especially now in the age of social media. I'm super hyper aware of it because that's my job, but it's really stressful. And I even though I wasn't coping with it through my eating disorder, I was actually going into a toxic relationship was a way for me to cope with my stress and anxiety, as well as like drinking and, experimenting with partying and things like that. And also just like, I also would struggle with bouts of depression and bouts of like isolation and social anxiety, where I would like literally have panic attacks in social situations, which is really, really crippling and really hard to talk about. And I also dealt with that when I moved to Los Angeles as well, when I was in a new city and had to like make new friends. That was something that I struggled with as well. So I'll talk a little bit about like my eating disorder. And yeah, so, okay. I would say that my eating disorder, like first was anorexia, and then it's turned into bulimia, and then it turned into binge eating. So I really struggle with everything under, the eating disorder spectrum. And it was definitely like one of the lowest of lows in my life, but I will say that I'm so glad that I went through that because it's made me the person who I am today, and it's also helped me find my passion, which is helping other young women get through that. And I would say like going to inpatient therapy and getting that treatment at such a young age, at 18, really helped me like become a stronger person, make me more self-aware, make me more emotionally aware, and also helped me develop better relationships with my family, and so on and so forth. But I was really determined to get better, and I knew that I had to go through that to get better. And with treatment, it's really important that like you want to get better, or else it's just kind of a waste of time and money. So that's that. Okay, so a toxic relationship. After, while I was in college, I struggled. I found a boyfriend, and he was great. And then pretty soon, it turned into verbally abusive and like emotionally abusive. And I kind of wanted to like define what a toxic relationship is. So it doesn't confuse anyone, because fights are normal, but like feeling drained from a relationship or stressed out, or feeling like a relationship that makes you feel depleted rather than lifting you up, that's a toxic relationship. So it doesn't even have to be a boyfriend or a partner. It can also be a family member or even a friend. So it can be dishonesty, disrespect, making you feel less than in any situation. So even if it's just the way that they speak to you and they speak down to you, that's not healthy, and that's not right, and that's not a relationship that you deserve to be in, no matter what your situation is. So my situation was my boyfriend started to kind of like belittle me and make me feel really small, so that I was afraid, and so my self-esteem was knocked down, so I was afraid of getting out of that relationship and afraid of leaving him. So it was his way of like keeping me, which was kind of ridiculous now if you think about it. Like, now I'm in a relationship where my partner and I like lift each other up, and we're like there to support each other, and we're allowed to like be our own individual person. But my relationships before that were very like hindering, and felt like if I left, then I would never find someone else. And I remember that's what my boyfriend told me when I broke up with him. He was like, "You'll never find someone as good as me." And it's like a simple statement, but when you're really down, I believed that. I was so afraid of leaving, and so I had like my mom intervene and my friends intervene, and it got pretty serious, and I was in it for 8 months, but it felt like a year. And then it was really difficult to like get out, and honestly I had to move out of my city and move to Los Angeles to really get out of that. But also codependency, which is basically when you're feeling like you can't, like, you're not yourself and you're not your true self because you depend on this person for everything and for your livelihood. So like a codependent relationship is when you can't do anything without the other person, or the other person makes you feel bad if you go out and do something without someone else. So say if your boyfriend says, "Oh, like you're going out without me tonight," like I don't think so. That's kind of controlling, and that's also an example of like how a relationship can be codependent. And like I said, like fights are normal. Just because you have a fight doesn't mean that you're in a toxic relationship, but you should definitely pay attention to how you feel after the fight, because it's all about how you like come to a resolution and how you get over it. So if you feel like you've been heard and communicated with and honest and authentic, and it feels good after the fight, like, after a couple days you feel okay, then that's all right. But if you still feel like you're being lied to, or something just feels off, then definitely consider talking to a counselor or a friend, or there's tons of information about toxic relationships and how to get out of them online. I remember like that's how I found out about it. I read like WikiHow to get out of a toxic relationship. So, okay. Anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. All right, so yeah, I know that college is really stressful. I pulled so many all-nighters. I drank so many vodka Red Bulls, so much just Red Bull and like all like energy, 24-hour energies and stuff like that. So I've been through that, and I know how stressful it is. And like, I would say that like I was like once like a normal college kid too. So I've definitely like, you know, experience that. So I know that it's not just like, you know, just take a bath and like, you know, just meal prep all day. Like I know that that's not realistic. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about like ways that you can take care of yourself and like in a realistic way. Obviously there's a lot of things that I talk about on my blog that I can do because I work from home or because I have my own apartment, but I definitely try to find things that everyone can do a little bit every day to like feel better about yourself. So, okay, I would say like, you know, this was me a couple years ago, and then now I have so much more confidence, and I think that honestly I found that confidence through gaining a sense of self-respect. And I did that by actually like being single for 2 years and really like discovering myself and taking time to like rebuild my confidence after getting out of that toxic relationship, and really deciding that like my eating disorder days were over and done with, and I was ready to like really just like feel things and like not just kind of like try to cover it up with a relationship or a boyfriend or a drink or, you know, like losing weight or whatever it was. For so long I was always like 6 months super healthy and then 6 months of just like treating my body like crap. So I was always like yo-yoing where I was like 6 months of no dessert and like going to the gym every day, and then 6 months of just like, I think drinking tequila every day. So it was like never like long, it wasn't sustainable. And it's not, and I've like learned that by changing how I shift like healthy living. And like I said, like it's not just all about like smoothies, it's so much more than smoothies. In fact, like it's, the smoothie part is like 1% of healthy living. And I think that that's where we kind of forget that with like modern media. Everyone's like, oh, you know, here are 5 recipes to a flatter stomach. Like, what does that do? Like, that doesn't do anything. What's a flat stomach? Women aren't even supposed to have flat stomachs, first of all. And second of all, like, a flat stomach isn't going to make you happy. So if you're constantly, I realize that if I'm constantly trying to find a body type that I want to be, I will never be satisfied, because bodies change every day. And I'll talk more about that in a couple minutes. But women's bodies are meant to like fluctuate, and if I'm trying to like fit into this like idea of what I think I should look like, then I'll never be satisfied, because I want to be pregnant one day and I'm gonna look like this probably, and like I shouldn't care and focus so much on how I look, because that's just a small part of me. So kind of just like changing the way that I view healthy living in a way kind of really helped me achieve balance and adapting, you know, healthier coping mechanisms. But this didn't happen, you know, like overnight. It definitely took like 2 years, I would say, of healing. This is kind of what I just went over. I really started to work on reducing my stress, and I know that that's something that you guys can probably all work on too, like being in college. And I also started to like get into really natural living, so clean beauty products and throwing away all the products in my home that were filled with endocrine disruptors, which are basically hormonal disruptors. Women's bodies are super sensitive to things like BPA, which is in plastic, sodium lauryl sulfite, which is in like many shampoos, aluminum, which is in like Secret, the deodorant brand, and then tampons, which have a lot of them have pesticides in them. So I started to really pay attention to what I was putting in my body, and by doing that, I felt like I was like, wow, I really care about my body. I felt like I was doing it a favor, and so that built my own self-confidence as well. And I actually like really started to give more to my friends, and I maybe like, you know, during this transition period, I think I like, you know, had a lot of friends, and then I kind of like stripped away the friends that weren't really friends and started to give more energy to the friends who I knew who were there for me and that were like really positive and inspiring people that I wanted to be around, people that made me feel good and lifted me up and made me feel like, okay, I can handle whatever, and kind of like dropped away the friends that I kind of just like hit up when I wanted to go out. And that also was like a huge stress relief because now I have less friends, but they're so meaningful. They're like sisters. And obviously, like, exercise is important, but I don't go like balls to the wall with my exercise anymore. I used to do like, like cardio every single day for like 5 or 6 days, and now I do cardio like once a week. And that has been really helpful for me in having a healthier relationship with exercise, which I think I also was like kind of addicted to for like 6 years, where I was like so intense about it, would have panic attacks if I missed a workout class. Because if you think about it, like whether it's an eating disorder or an exercise addiction or anything like that, those are all coping mechanisms. And so I kind of like stripped that away too. And I would say that, like, I don't know if you guys have heard of what cycle syncing is. Does anyone know what that is? Do you guys know what cycle syncing is? Okay, so cycle syncing is when you sync your life to your female cycle. So you guys have 4 cycles. You have your menstrual, ovulation, follicular, and luteal. And so those are the 4 female cycles per month. And there's a way to like sync your life to your cycle. So it depends on your energy level and what so basically you have like, during those 4 cycles, there are specific foods that you can eat to help reduce cramps. There are specific exercises that you can do to reduce cramps. The week after your period is when you have the most energy, so that's when you should be doing like boxing and cardio and boot camp classes. When I'm on my period, I don't exercise for like 6 or 7 days, and I just take it easy. Sometimes I do like yoga or a light hike, but I've completely changed the way that I work out. And so now when I'm done with my period, I have like 10 times the energy. So I don't know if you guys have ever been sitting in an exercise class and you're pushing yourself and you're just like, why am I sucking at this workout class right now? Well, it's probably because your energies are down because you're on a specific phase. So if you want to learn more about cycle syncing, it's in a later slide. I have a blog post on it, and there's also a book that you can read about it, but it's helped me achieve balance in so many ways. All right. Healthy body image. I feel like this is kind of important. I threw away the scale like 2 years ago. Sorry, not 2 years ago. Like 6 months ago. Up until 6 months ago, I was weighing myself, maybe a little bit. Maybe I would say like up until a year ago, I was weighing myself every single day, obsessed with what the scale said. And if I wasn't at a specific number, then I would have the worst day ever. And letting a number define me, I realized that that wasn't serving me, and that didn't align with who I am or my values. So I decided to throw away my scale, and it was such a good decision. And like cycling, syncing with my body, those things that I just talked about, and having a balanced diet, which is basically like having dessert on the regular, never restricting anything. If I want chocolate, I eat chocolate. Whatever I'm craving, I let myself have, because I really truly believe that in order to feel like fulfilled and satisfied, life is too short like to like miss out on joy. And I think that like for me, food brings me extreme joy. So I just went to Europe and ate, I think, everything that I saw. And it was great. Like I loved it. And I knew that I would come back to Los Angeles and pick up my routine and pick up where I left off. And if I'm being honest, there were some times where I was like, okay, well, Lee, maybe you're like going a little bit too hard on the pasta. But I actually was like, no, you're okay. It's okay. Because I know that I was in Italy, like I want to enjoy like food. I'm not going to eat a salad in Italy. Like I wasn't going to do that. I ate a salad, but it was on top of a pizza. So yeah, like it's so crazy because when I was struggling with my eating disorder, like I would go months without eating dessert, and now I pretty much have dessert. You know, like sometimes there's days where I was like, oh, I don't actually need dessert. And then there's days where I go like weeks for having a dessert every night. So I really try to just like listen to my body and kind of answer what it's saying. So yeah, I don't know if you guys want to take a picture of that link, but that is a blog post on cycle syncing. So I talk about like how you can sync your life with your cycle, and like so you can basically get the most energy, and you can also like sync your social calendar with it as well. Like basically the best time to go on a first date is in your ovulation phase. That's when you are actually the most like magnetic, and The best time to like stay in and chill is during the second half of your luteal phase, which is PMSing, when most of us PMS, and also during your menstrual cycle. That's usually when we feel like we want to turn inward and reflect. If you ever have felt like you just want to watch Netflix with your sweatpants all day because you have your period, that's normal. Napping is considered an exercise when you're on your period too, so you can nap and like give yourself permission to just chill out, because I feel like we always feel like, oh my God, no, I need to go out. And like, no, if you feel like crap and you're tired and your body's like going through its period, then it's probably a good idea to let yourself relax and gain that energy, get that energy back, so when you're done with your period, you feel 10 times better, you don't feel depleted of energy, and you're ready to like go out and slay. So you have, like in my blog post, I talk about like what workouts I do for each phase, what foods I eat. I will say that mushrooms and seaweed are amazing for cramps. And I have a really good turmeric bone broth mushroom seaweed recipe on my blog for cramps that I make every single time I have my period, and it's amazing. And then like light salads and fermented foods are really good right after your period is done. And then in your luteal phase, the 2 weeks before your period, I suggest roasting all your vegetables and eating as many roasted vegetables as you can, because that helps lower estrogen and it also helps fight the sugar cravings that we so commonly get right around our period. So if you've ever felt like, oh my God, I need a cupcake, I'm getting my period, it's because your body actually wants sugar, and you can get those same sugars from like roasted sweet potato, roasted cauliflower. And you can also have the cupcake too, but I'm just saying, you know, you can also have the cauliflower. Okay, so,
Wait, here's a question.
oh yeah.
So how would like hormonal birth control affect your cycle?
Okay, so there is a way to go and cycle sync while you're on hormonal birth control. But the book that I like talk about all the time, where I learned all this information from, pretty much kind of says that hormonal birth control can cause a lot of issues, and she suggests not being on it. But I know that, you know, that's not possible for everyone, and there's many reasons to be on the pill. But you can sync your cycle to the moon phases, or to the, depending on which hormonal birth control you have. I'm not sure which one you have, but a lot of them give you kind of like a fake period. Just so you know, that's not your real period, it's a placebo, but you could still sync your life, like your cycle, to that as well. And there's more information on the blog post as well. Does anyone have any other questions about, you can ask me like anything about birth control or anything like that? No? Okay. All right, so building healthy friendships. Okay, so I feel like women are actually, like when I think about it, like women are actually meant to be competitive. Like biologically, we're meant to think that like there's a limited amount. There's actually more females in the world than men. So statistically, it makes sense that we're a little bit more competitive. And so just like understanding that is a good way to kind of like understand why sometimes we can feel the need to put others down or compare. Comparing is so hard and so terrible, especially now with social media. I even do it sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, that girl's in Ibiza again? Like, what? Like, so I sometimes, you know, struggle with that, and I feel like social media makes it so much worse. Now we can see what everyone's doing all the time, and it can be really hard to be like excited for somebody. But my mom told me this quote once that says like, a rising tide lifts all ships. And actually that's like a quote for economics, but it's also a quote for women. So basically, if a woman is doing well, so say like your friend gets her dream job, for some reason, like, you know, we're thinking, oh my God, she got her dream job. Even if it's in an entire different industry, that means that like you're not gonna get your dream job. Like we turn everything into about us, and everything is about, we automatically say, oh my God, that girl's prettier than me, as if there's like a certain amount of pretty in the world, and like she has more than you, so that means you have less. Like there isn't a set amount of pretty in the world, and there's not like a set amount of dream jobs that like people are like just giving out, and like if someone gets one, you don't get one. Life isn't like that. Life has so many different opportunities, and I genuinely feel like if we can learn to be happy for someone, a friend or a coworker or a classmate, when they make an achievement, it will only help us in the end. Like being jealous, being envious, not only doesn't feel good, but it's not like a good like trait to have, because I will tell you why, because it's negative energy, and if you're putting out negative energy, people feel that, and then you're gonna feel bad, and then people aren't gonna treat you well, and then it's like a negative cycle. So being jealous or envious of someone else doesn't necessarily do any justice. But like it's a normal feeling, like sometimes being jealous or envious is totally normal. And what I like to remind myself is if I get maybe envious or jealous of someone, maybe they have something that I want. And maybe they like just got like a new pair of shoes, and I'm like pissed that they got those shoes. Well, maybe I want those shoes, and maybe I should like work extra hard and save money so I can get those shoes. So it's kind of a good way, jealousy and envy is a good way of actually seeing what you want. And like maybe next time you feel jealous or envious of someone, that's actually your brain's way of saying, I want that. So if she got like a dream job, and maybe you want that job, so maybe you should take the logical steps to getting there, or maybe like take her out for lunch and hear out how she did that, or what, like how she got there, so you can really like, you know, do that for yourself, and take the logical steps to get to that place. So I always like that about jealousy and envy, how it can actually like speak to us, and we don't have to necessarily like be mad that we're envious, but it's actually a way of seeing what our true desires are. Yeah, so just like using that as motivation. So yeah, like there's different ways of like finding like close friends, and I'm sure you guys probably don't have a problem with that. But for me, I really like to find friends with like-minded values and interests. Right now, those are like health-centered, so I found a lot of friends by going to like a yoga studio and meeting like a wide variety of friends. So even if I'm going, like I have a close knit group of friends, but I also have friends from different parts of like the country. I think it's really important to have a wide variety of friends. So making friends like outside of your sorority or outside of your school is the best way to have like a really rich and full life, and not like, and being open to friendships throughout as you get older and stuff, because it's funny how like after college everyone's kind of like, some people think, oh, I'm good with friends, like I don't need to make any more friends, but I definitely like to like make friends as I go older, and I feel like I'm always like trying to make new friends all the time, and like asking people on friend dates, and I like get all nervous. I'm like, do you want to get a smoothie? But it's really important, and it's really cool, and it's the best way to like make connections and meet new people and grow and expand as a human. So but yeah, basically like find friends that inspire you, and it's okay to like let go of a friendship that isn't healthy or that doesn't make you feel good. I myself have dealt with that so many times, where I've been friends with someone and they're friends with all my friends, and that person's just like not making me feel good, and they're like either like saying mean things to me, or just like treating me weird, or like leaving me out, or making me feel less than, and I'm not really digging them. And I felt like I needed to like stay friends with them because of my other friends. And I'm so glad that I'm past that point now, where I'm just kind of like, I don't need to like confront them about it, but I'll just kind of like, you know, stop hanging out with them. Or confront them if I feel like they're worth it, then like I would say something. But if it's someone that I'm like, nah, I'm okay, then I'll try to just like move on with life. And I feel like that's really important, because we only have a certain amount of energy throughout the day. If we're constantly giving it to people who don't deserve it, then it's kind of a waste. So making sure that you're really feeding those friendships that lift you up. And like, what my favorite thing to do is, like, I've started doing that this week especially. It's just like, if you have a best friend, like texting them in the middle of the day and just being like, I love you and I appreciate you. And it's like just out of the blue, and just doing it because you do, and it feels really good, and that person deserves to hear that. And like, a friend is like the most amazing thing in the world. So really like making your friends feel good and appreciated and loved is a really important thing, and it makes you feel better too. Okay, so let's talk about self-care. That's me wearing a mask. Okay, so yeah, so basically, for me, self-care is basically doing like the smallest things. Sometimes it's doing all this stuff, but other times it's like, you know, like I have this quote that I like wrote a couple weeks ago, where it like is sometimes self-love is honestly flossing my teeth as a way of showing myself that I love myself. It's a small thing that my dentist has been telling me to do since I was a little kid, and doing that makes me feel like I love myself. And also like doing the dishes is self-love. Folding my laundry is self-love. Like basically like telling my friends if they've hurt my feelings or if there's a miscommunication and like communicating with people that I love, that's self-love as well. And also like going on vacation and eating gelato is self-love. So it's basically like self-love isn't just that, it's also this. But I'll talk about like some of my favorite ways too that I show myself self-love when I like really need it or I'm feeling a little bit low, or especially what's happened this week in Las Vegas. I'm sure we're all feeling this like heaviness, and it's a perfect time to like do self-love. And it's not selfish to take care of yourself, because in these times we really need to take care of ourselves so we can take care of each other. So self-love isn't selfish. It doesn't mean that you're like arrogant, or we don't need to be embarrassed by taking care of ourselves. Women take care of other people all day long. We're always serving other people. So being able to take care of yourself is amazing. So just remember that. If someone makes you feel like you're being selfish for like doing a face mask and staying in, or you're indulgent, then like that's their perspective on it. It's not true. So these are the ways that I take care of myself. Doing yoga is huge for me. It's changed my like whole life, and I absolutely love it. So I practice yoga consistently and have been for many, many years. Makes my body feel good. It's not about like having like lean muscles. It's about like the way that yoga makes me feel. It's a heart opening. It really has so many benefits. It calms your nervous system. It helps your digestion. It helps you sleep at night. It's really great. So yoga is awesome if you haven't tried it. I also meditate. I use the Calm app, and it's an app on my phone, and I highly suggest it. I used to think that meditating, I have like the biggest monkey brain ever and ADHD. So if I can meditate, anyone can meditate. I also love going on hikes with friends, walking with a friend. That's also like a great way to like get an exercise and hang out with someone. Obviously having a rad support system is super important, whether that's family or not even family, friends, teachers, whatever. But having people that you know that you can rely on and be your true self with is super important for self-care as well. I also meal prep every week, so if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I'm obsessed with meal prepping. I feel like it's the best way for me to stay on track with my meals, so I know what I'm eating that whole week, and I spend one day a week basically preparing for the whole week, so I don't have to like spend time every day preparing lunch or dinner. I already have like a big thing of Tupperware of sweet potatoes that I just add into a bowl when I'm ready to eat them. And I feel like meal prepping in college, I didn't do it, but if I were in college now, I'd meal prep all the time, because I feel like it's a great way to like, I know that cafeteria food, my school at St. Joe's was disgusting. I don't know what it's like here, but it was gross and like just not good. So like learning how to cook is also a self-care thing. It's just a way of like showing myself that I love myself and I care. Also, like self-care is like staying in sometimes and like not going to every single social event, not overstressing yourself out, not like overcommitting. I know that women especially have like a tendency to overcommit. I even sometimes do where I'm like, sure, I want to do all these things, and then I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a free day or a second over the next 10 days. And I know myself now that I need to learn to say no. And really prioritize what's important to me, what's gonna help me with my work, and if it doesn't serve me with my work or my relationships or my life in general, then I say no to it. So with you guys, it could be, does this help me with school? Does this help me with my personal life? No? Is this gonna be like, okay, so no, probably not. Those are like, whatever your priorities are, like see if those meet your priorities, and if not, then you can just say no. And there's power in a pass. Okay, so that's my self-care quote. So ways of de-stressing when I have those moments of like, oh my God, okay, like anxiety, stress, like for you guys would maybe be like a big exam coming up, or maybe like schoolwork is just getting way too intense, or you have a scary job interview or whatever. For me, it's usually like I have too much work and I need to like, work sometimes stresses me out sometimes. So if I feel like there's too much to do on my to-do list, I get stressed out. So back in the day, I probably would have turned it into, okay, I'm going to channel this energy into my eating disorder. I know not to do that anymore, and so these are like my tips on how I de-stress. So on the day where I'm feeling stressed out, I usually call my mom, whenever that is, because she is an amazing listener, and she always helps me bring me down to earth. So having someone that you can call, it doesn't have to be your mom, but having someone that you can call or talk to when you're stressed out, it's just such a great way to like talk about it. And even if they're not even saying anything, just like getting it off your chest almost like helps it escape a little bit. I also love journaling. I've been keeping a journal since I was like 6. So I have like all these journals at home, and I absolutely love journaling. And then going home, or not going home, but like some days I'll like go back and read old journals and see how far I've come, and it's really amazing. And so when I'm stressed out, seeing the progress that I've made is really motivating and encouraging as well. And sometimes like when I journal, by the way, it's like, today I had a smoothie, and that's it. So like, it's not always like, dear diary, like this long thing. Sometimes it's 5 words, sometimes it's 5 pages. So I journal about everything from like how I'm feeling to what I did that day, to any fights that I've had with friends, or what's happening with work or my life, or how I'm just feeling in general. It can be anything. Just like getting it off it's a great release, and feels like I always, after I journal, feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders. Getting adequate sleep is super important too. I know that's probably really hard in college, but making sure that you get like 7 or 8 hours, make it a priority, because it totally affects your life. When you don't sleep as much, your hunger and your insulin is crazy the next day. Your body actually is off its circadian rhythm, so you're not gonna do as well in your workout. You're gonna crave sugar and caffeine, and you're gonna send your body into overdrive. So making sure that you get enough sleep also helps reduce stress and anxiety and things like that. So it's really, really important. Also, do you guys know what adaptogens are? Okay, so an adaptogen is basically an herb that helps your body adapt to stress. So basically, there's like 100 adaptogens, and I wrote down one of my favorites. It's ashwagandha, and it's actually an herb that you can buy. Sun Potion is my favorite brand, and you can add them to your coffee or your tea or your matcha or your smoothie, or you can even drink it with hot water, and it's actually an anti-anxiety herb. It's completely like safe, as long as you're not pregnant or breastfeeding. You take a half teaspoon in the morning and at night, and it has completely helped me get rid of my stress and anxiety. I used to be on anti-anxiety medication, and I'm completely off of it now, thanks to like ashwagandha. So I definitely highly recommend it, and I also have tons of recipes on how to use it on my blog as well. I don't know if you guys have baths, but salt and lavender essential oil baths are like my favorite thing in the world. I take them like once a week at least to just like decompress and chill out. Caffeine is definitely a stressor, so I see like a lot of coffees here. When I was in college, I drank so many coffees, and I honestly was like immune to it. Like I didn't even feel it. I could drink coffee before bed, and then I don't even know how my body was taking all that caffeine. I think that's why I actually ended up with adrenal fatigue later on. So do yourself a favor and just start like being aware of how much caffeine you're drinking. You don't have to stop. You don't have to like go caffeine free or anything crazy like that. But just like one day, just be like, okay, how many cups of coffee am I doing? And by the way, a cup of coffee is 8 ounces. So if you're drinking like a venti, that's 3 cups. So just remember that. So if you're drinking like 2 of those a day, that's 6. So maybe just like one day, just like see how much coffee you're drinking, and then just like be aware of it, and maybe like, you know, having a 12 noon cutoff. So maybe having coffee in the morning, but not having it at night, especially if you have trouble sleeping or insomnia or anything like that, falling asleep or staying asleep. Coffee is usually a huge stressor, and it's also really hard on our hormones as a woman. So things to know. Having a routine is also really helpful in reducing stress. Some people like to be spontaneous. I am a routine fiend. I love routines. So like having a nightly routine every night. So whether that's like taking a shower, like having 10 minutes of journaling or watching Netflix or whatever, maybe turning your phone off at 10 p.m. That's like my new favorite thing to do with like the news and social media these days. I feel like I owe it to myself to have at least 30 minutes of like no phone time before going to bed, because I don't want all the things that I absorb right before bed to like haunt me in my dreams. I want to like have a little bit of just like time where I could just daydream, because I feel like we don't do that anymore. And then going to bed, so I'm not just like Instagram all the time. Also, one thing that helps me deal with stress is adding healthy fats into my diet. Eating an avocado when I'm anxious, I swear to God, it has healing powers. Like, I have noticed myself, if I'm super anxious and I have butterflies in my stomach, eating a couple spoonfuls of avocado helps calm me down. And there's actually like scientific backup studies on that. Like, fat slows down your body's like metabolism, or not slows down your metabolism, but slows down digestion. And sometimes when we're anxious and there's the butterflies in our stomach, everything's moving really fast. And having something like a coconut butter, almond butter, or something with like healthy fats, olive oil, can really help bring down our stress. So incorporating those into your daily diet anyway is a good idea, because those are amazing fats for study and brain power and things like that. But they taste great, so there's an excuse to eat nut butter. And then they're just also really good for reducing stress and stuff like that. Does anyone have any questions so far? All right, those are some pictures of self-care. That's my friend Allison and I in a bath. And then that's a picture of what I eat usually. And then that's hiking in LA. Okay. All right, so also minimizing your clutter. I'm a huge proponent on like space, and like I truly believe that as soon as you walk into a room, you take in the energy of the space. So if you walk into a really, really like messy room or unorganized, or there's clutter everywhere, or there's like clothes on the floor, when you see that, even if you don't like recognize it, your brain takes that in as like stress. And I don't know if you guys have ever walked into like a newly cleaned room, but it's just like, oh God, it's like clean, and the spaces are like, there's nothing on the tables, and your desk is clean, and you just feel like inspired and energized. So it's a good idea to start getting into the habit of reducing clutter in general. So like one day a week, just like cleaning off your counter, cleaning off your kitchen counter, cleaning off your desk. Like as soon as you're done wearing clothes, like it shouldn't go on the floor. I sometimes do that, but like as soon as it's done, just like put it in the hamper or wherever it needs to go. Do yourself that favor, because it really, really helps with reducing stress. That's my workspace. It doesn't look like that right now. It has a lot of stuff on it, but it did look like that at one point. And it's a great way for me to, like, when it does look like that, I'm so much more productive, because when I have little things on my desk, I'm just always like, oh, I'm gonna do that. Okay, I'm gonna do that. And like my brain becomes like really unproductive, and it doesn't feel good, and I get stressed out. I'm also a huge proponent in constantly going through your clothing closet. I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes get so emotionally attached to my clothes, and I hold on to things for so long, and I'm like, I will wear that one day. And it's like, no, you haven't worn that outfit in like 4 years, and I am emotionally like attached to this blazer that I don't even wear blazers anymore, and like but I thought that I might one day, and just being able to let go of that actually creates more brain space in your head, so you can let new stuff in, and maybe you can like buy something new that you love. So whenever I want to like buy a new piece of clothing, I always go through all my things, and I put all my hooks on the other way. So this is a good thing to do like once or twice a year. Like go in your closet and put all your hooks facing away from you, and then over the next 6 months, and then when you put things back, put it towards you. Anything that's still back from you means that you haven't worn it in 6 months, so throw it away. That's a good way of just seeing what you haven't worn in 6 months. Obviously with seasons, it's like a little bit harder, so make sure you don't throw away your winter clothes because it's just been 6 months. But like with other things where it's been a full season and you still haven't worn it, do yourself a favor, recycle it, throw it away, give it to a friend. Also, like my friends and I used to do clothing swaps where we would bring in all of our clothes that we didn't want anymore, and we would all just be able to grab each other's stuff. And it was really fun, only if your friends have good style. And then you could it's a great way to like get free clothes. You can also donate stuff to Buffalo Exchange. I do that too, except it's really depressing when they don't take your clothes. You're like, I have good style, I swear. So yeah, like just get used to like letting go of material items, get used to that feeling, because it's a really great thing to do. Holding on to material items doesn't really bring you, that's like attachment, and it doesn't really bring you any joy. So if it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. Okay, so also I have like a meal prep guide, and I wanted to give you guys a discount. So if you're interested in learning how to meal prep, that's an example of like a meal prep thing that is in the book actually. It's how to like roast a chicken, how to make a black bean dip, and how to like steam and freeze zucchinis for smoothies, and that's something that I do all the time. So I have a lot of recipes on my blog about that, but this meal prep guide is a great intro for meal prepping for beginners. So you guys can use the code Villanova at checkout if you're interested. Yeah, and the book has 8 recipes and like a lot of inspiration for breakfast, lunch, and dinner too. So, yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, yeah.
This is kind of like more of a general question, but like as you're going through some of this stuff, so like I'm a senior, so like the real world is very imminent, like quickly approaching. And I feel like in college we kind of start to develop these kind of like bad habits, like you said, like not sleeping enough, drinking too much caffeine, like my clothes are my floor, like things like that. And like I feel like we use being in college as an excuse. So like when you like graduated from St. Joe's and stuff, like did you find that it was hard to make that transition into being like kind of more organized and making like more time for yourself, like kind of getting rid of some of those bad habits that were developed in college?
I think so. I think actually, like after I graduated from school, I lived with my parents for 6 months to save money so I could move to New York City because that was like my dream. And as soon as I got my own apartment in New York City where I was paying full rent and I was working my tail off to like make it work, I started to really care about my space, and I started to like not want to have clothes on the floor. And because I lived in like a shoebox apartment in Manhattan as well, I really had to be organized. But I would say that like when I got my own space and I really started to like care for it, then it happened, but it didn't happen overnight. And I would say like maybe up until a year ago, I would still go back to my parents' house and turn into a kid again and leave the mugs in the sink and like clothes on the floor. And then I kind of just realized like, oh, this is my parents' house. I don't live here anymore. Like I should probably be a good guest, like as if I were like a guest at a friend's house. Like it's not just like, I can't expect my mom to keep cleaning up after me. So it's kind of just like maybe something that happens with maturity and just like realizing, you know, that like your space, like doing that because you care and just like saying, okay, like I'm an adult now and it's the real world, and like doing those things will help the real world because the real world is crazy. So doing these things will help you. Like, I know it seems like a lot, like, oh my God, now I have to go buy ashwagandha and like clean my room all the time. But there are things that help you so you can handle the real world because sometimes it's really stressful. So like everything that I just said, you don't have to do all those things tonight, but just keep those things in mind because it can get stressful, and it's all about how you handle stress. That's what life is all about. So yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You were talking about endocrine blocking products.
Disruptors, yeah.
Yeah, where did you get the information on that? Like, how did you know which products?
Okay, so there's tons of information. You can go to ewg.org and you can type in a product, or you can download the Think Dirty app and you can scan, it has like your QR code, and you can scan a product and see what if there's carcinogens or if it's environmentally sustainable or anything like that. You can also buy the book Woman Code, which is by Elisa Vitti, and she's a hormone specialist, and she's an entire list of products that you should avoid and ingredients that you should avoid as well. Yeah.
This kind of like, I don't even know if you know the answer to this. When you went to LA, did you know that this is like the type of lifestyle you want to embrace, or just kind of like?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to live healthier because when I was living in New York, my boss and I would go out to LA for work, and because he was interested in opening, I worked in the hospitality industry, and he was interested in opening up a space in LA, and we would stay there, and I would just be like, wow, everyone's going on hikes, and like, it seems so healthy, everyone's outside. It just seemed like a better fit. And my boss would always be like, oh, I'm so glad we're back in New York. And I'd always be like, I wish we were back still in LA. I really loved it. I always have. I went there for the first time when I was 16 with my mom and dad. And I got off the plane at 16 and I just was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna live here one day. I just knew it. So as soon as I could get the chance, I took it and went. So I quit my job and in my corporate like hospitality job. And I had already started my blog, and it had actually grown a little bit and gained some traction. And I was able to monetize it a little bit. But when I moved to LA, I started waitressing and was doing my blog on the side. So I got out of the corporate world and started to try to start my own thing. And I did that in LA. And I also felt like it was a little bit more affordable to do that in LA rather than New York, because New York is crazy expensive. Does anyone have any other questions about the real world and work or everything like that? Or anything that we talked about? Yeah?
Obviously, you're extremely active on Instagram, and because it's also your job,
Mm-hmm.
how do you balance your online life versus your personal life?
That's something that I'm always trying to figure out myself. I don't have like an answer to that, but it's an ongoing like struggle, I think, because I think for me, I like to share a lot of stuff, but it's really important that I keep some things private because, I mean, it's just easy to become kind of like a slave to what people want to see and only do that for them. But I think having boundaries and talking about stuff when I feel ready to talk about stuff, I'm the kind of person that needs to process stuff before I talk openly about it on my platform. So if I'm going through it, it's usually kind of hard for me to talk about it. I need to have gone through it to talk about it. Or else I feel like I need to be like neat with my thoughts and to the point and stuff like that. So I usually like try to keep my personal life, so like my friends and my family and my relationship, that's stuff that I usually like to keep personal. And kind of everything else, just like I talk about stuff. But I like I said, like I try to keep some things in. But it's still something that I'm like, okay, should I share this? Or like, is that oversharing? Or, you know, I found that the more I share, the more my followers want to see. So it's a delicate balance of being like, okay, I'm going to draw the line there and not talk about that. So, yeah.
How did you come up with the name Lee from America?
That's a really good question, and I wish I had a better story. But basically, I saw a guy, his Instagram name was like John from Sweden or something like that. And then I was like, I wonder if Lee from America is taken, and it wasn't, and so I took it. So that's how it started. I wish I had I'm super patriotic. I love America, but that's really it. I think I need to come up with a better story, though, because it's not good. Yeah?
Going through the tougher times, what were some of the things that gave you strength and hope throughout them?
That's such a good question. I would say my family gave me strength. They've been super supportive through everything, and we're very close, all four of us together. So having that rock that I always knew that I could depend on and rely on was great. And I would say that a lot of the strength I pulled in from inside me. I knew when I was going through my eating disorder or the toxic relationship or the partying, I knew that I wanted to be up here in life. And I felt like all that stuff was I was just hitting this wall. I was just I want to be going up, and I couldn't go because I was either struggling with an eating disorder, or I was in an abusive relationship that was confining me into this space, or I was going out and getting drunk every night and then not doing anything the next day. So realizing that I wanted to be, I knew my potential and I knew what I had, and I knew deep down that I really could reach that, but all those things were stopping it. So I knew that I just had to put those things away and just grow without them. Yeah?
Did you start your blogging after you had already kind of started your healthy lifestyle, or did that kind of develop with the blog?
I started my blog right after I got out of the toxic relationship while I was living in New York, and I wanted an outlet because I was also working a stressful job. And my blog was I don't know if you guys have blogs, but it's a great way to just kind of go into this alternative reality, and you can follow all these people and accounts that are living this lifestyle that you want, whatever your blog's about, dentistry or food or whatever. It's a great way to connect with like-minded people. And I also had a blog while I was in college at St. Joe's, and it was called For the Love of Peanut Butter, and it was an eating disorder recovery blog, and it was super popular. I deleted it on a whim because I wanted to separate myself from that identity as the eating disorder blogger. But I knew that I had a knack for I studied creative writing in college, and I also love photography, so I knew that I had a knack for it. But I would say that my blog was kind of a way for me to escape reality and put my passions out into the world. Did that answer your question? Okay, I forgot. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
How do you take your pictures?
Oh, with what? Oh, iPhone 7 Plus. It's all about the lighting. I don't use a SLR or whatever. I don't even know what they're called, like a big camera. I tried that once. I actually got a camera for my birthday like a year and a half ago, and I started taking pictures with that, and my engagement went down. People didn't like high quality, like professional photos, and that's when I realized that people wanted to see like more real stuff. And iPhone is a great way because you always have it with you. And I'm not a professional photographer, so I just use an iPhone 7 Plus, and I use Snapseed as an editor. But I can't say how I edit them because that's a secret. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah?
I think for some of us, especially seniors, we'll be moving to a new city or somewhere we've never been before for work. How did you deal with that move to LA and not assuming, I don't know if you knew anybody or friends, and making authentic friendships?
Okay, so when I first moved to, that's a really good question, because when I first moved to LA, the first way I knew how to hang out with people is to go out and go to the bars. That's like the social thing to do, kind of in any city, right? Like meet up and get drinks. And it's also a great way to, like, when you're a little bit nervous, making new friends, like kind of like, it's called like social lubrication drinking. It's a great way to like get rid of anxiety, and kind of like as soon as you have 2 glasses of wine, you have everything in common. So I started to do that, and then I was like, Lee, the reason that you left New York is because you don't want to drink anymore and you want a new lifestyle. So going out to the bars and like meeting up with your cousin and her friends who all party, you're not going to find that. So I really realized that I had to make friends by going to yoga, or by like joining like interesting, like I joined like a hiking group, and I actually ended up making friends with my roommate who I met on Craigslist, and she happened to like be super cool. And then from there kind of like spread into her group of friends, and then found different friends through work. Also like reaching out to people online that I liked and like followed, and was just like, hey, do you want to grab a smoothie or whatever, and asking them to hang out. So like not being afraid of like asking people on friend dates, and especially someone that you meet online, because you can tell if you have mutual interests. And I'm also like never afraid to meet people online, like especially if you like know that they're safe and stuff like that. But if it's like someone who maybe you like are friends with friends and you can just like connect, it's a great way to meet people who are like-minded and have the same interests as you. Any other questions? Yeah?
If you have someone in your life that like you think there's like maybe signs of a toxic relationship, how do you decide if like they're important enough to like kind of fix the relationship versus just kind of not do it?
So if someone that you know is in a toxic relationship, how do you know if you should tell them to get rid of it?
If you think that a relationship you have with someone might be toxic, how do you tell if like you should try to like communicate about it, or if you should just like walk away?
I would say it depends on the severity of it and how important the person is to you. If it's someone that is like a friend of a friend, and like you don't really care, then I would say just like walk away right away, and maybe like, you know, avoid that person. Don't hang out with them if you know that they're going to be there. Find different friends. And I don't think that's like necessarily avoiding, because I think that's actually like looking out for yourself, and making sure that you're surrounding yourself with positive people who have a positive influence on you. I would say if it's like it's a severe case, if it's physical ever, like even if it's just like on drunken nights where the person grabs you but makes you feel like hurt or unsafe, that's something where I would say the line is drawn and it's already too late and you need to get out of it like yesterday. And then with emotional and mental stuff, which is just as damaging as a physical relationship. I feel like toxic relationships, we always think of like domestic abuse and black eyes and stuff like that, but like emotional abuse also causes bruises, and they sometimes last longer than the physical ones. So I would say like if it's really starting to take over your thinking and you're like, you can't think about anything else except for this relationship, the person's controlling you or lying to you or making you just feel less than in any way, then it's already severe and needs to go. Most of the time, I would say, like, if you think it's a toxic relationship, it probably is one, and that means that you should get out of it, and you should find a support group, like a group of friends that you can build, that you need to support them, because you need a lot of strength to get out of a toxic relationship. You can't do it alone. So you need to find friends, family members, counselors, whatever, to support you and have your back and make sure you get out of that safely and with like a click. Yeah?
Does that be an advice on just like learning how to do things that you want to do and not things that you think other people want you to do?
Oh, that's such a good question. Like basically just being authentic and doing truly what you want to do. It's so hard in school because I remember feeling like I needed to do what all my friends were doing all the time. And I knew like that I didn't really necessarily want to do those things, but I felt like I had to. So I would say like making like a vision board, or not even a vision board, just like writing down on your on a piece of paper what your values are, what your interests are, and taking steps to get to those things. So like if you're interested in like crocheting or pottery, but you're always going to the bars and like, or I don't know, bowling, and you don't like it, like figure out what you like, figure out what your passions are, write it down. I'm such a visual person, so I always like write down. I have like a note card with all my values on my mirror, and I've never taken it down. And it's just a daily reminder of like what's important to me, and also it keeps me going on the path that I'm going on. And so if I'm straying from that path, I'll always have my values like just kind of like pinned up to my mirror so I can see them on the daily. So I would say like, you know, making sure that you're finding friends that all have similar interests as you, so you feel more confident in doing the things that you want to do too. Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah?
You didn't talk about it today, but I follow you. Sorry. But you do a lot with gratitude. I was wondering how that impacts you, and like what are some easy steps you can take to start, like writing down what you're grateful for, that sort of thing.
Yeah, a gratitude list is a really great way to just like be a happier person. Usually like once a month I write down my intentions, what my intentions are. I don't like to use the word goals, because I feel like if I don't achieve a goal, then I like failed. And I feel like an intention is a graceful goal. So I'll write down things that I want to achieve, or like get to, whether that's like spending time with a friend or whatever. And that usually like doing that once a month gives me gratitude for my life and makes me realize, wow, okay, there's so much strife and suffering in the world, and even just being able to like be alive and write down this list is a blessing. And like sometimes taking 5 minutes before bed and making a list of 5 things that I'm grateful for. And the funny thing is, once I write 5, I usually end up writing like 30. Like once you start going, sometimes it's like I'm grateful for hummus. I'm grateful for like the smell of Christmas trees, and I'm grateful for my feet. I'm grateful for my legs. Like I'm grateful for my friends. Like there's so many things to be grateful for. So just thinking about like even the simplest things is a great way to like start getting grateful, because it's also so easy to forget when things are really good. It's so easy to forget that, and then as soon as something bad happens, like I don't know about you guys, whenever I get sick, I'm always like, I took being healthy for granted. Like, why did I just wish feel about better. And so just like, it's a great way to make sure that you're never taking life for granted, or health, or anything like that. Does anyone have any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you guys. If you have, thanks. If you guys have any other questions that you didn't feel comfortable like saying, I can stay back here and you can ask me in person, or you can also email me or direct message me or anything through my Instagram, which is Lee from America. But thank you guys so much for having me, and I hope everyone has a great day. Okay.